What is up? Back with episode 3 of Garage Build. We've got a little bit of a project to tackle today. We're going to finish up the vapor barrier on the ceiling, and we're going to maybe start getting to some of the drywall. This will be kind of a multi-day process. There is a lot of sheets of drywall here to put up onto the ceiling, and then we'll tackle the wall after the ceiling is done. So before we get to the vapor barrier, I need to climb up on that ladder and put a hole in the ceiling or in the wall on this side up in the rafter so that we can access through the crawl space right over here and be able to blast insulation once all the drywall is done. Just looking up at that wall up there all the way up to the peak, we don't need a giant hole, basically like a 2 foot by 2 foot section, pretty much like right in here, so that it clears the upward pieces of the 2x4 on the rafter, and it doesn't interfere with like any studs or anything, as long as they can get some sort of a tube to go up that hole and then through here and spray insulation that way and over there. It should be plenty good, just a 2x2 hole. I have a hole saw that we're gonna pop a hole for like one of the corners, and then a saw we're just gonna basically rough cut a square right in here. Shouldn't take too long. We'll zip that in real quick, and then we can start getting to adding the 2x4s on that bottom lip of the ceiling right there. Like I mentioned in the previous video, basically a 2x4 has to go all the way across right here so that the drywall has something to secure to, because typically you would leave some of that wood sitting there so that the drywall can butt up to that. Well, the builder closed it off completely, so we have to add something there to secure the drywall. So I'll climb up there and we'll get going on this project. It kind of is a diagonal right here. Let's just guess about here. Should be all right. Yep, perfect. That's a good starter hole. Then we can get that bit for the saw in there. Try to get that piece out of this hole saw. We only need to draw the one, then we'll kind of just cut that hole, whether it's a square, rectangle, whatever, and get that cut in here. Well, would you look at that? Well, that's kind of a bummer. The builder said they sprayed the insulation up in the rafters up here. There ain't no insulation up there. Moving on to the next step, we're gonna get this 2x4 up on that rafter real quick. I went ahead and pre-drilled the holes for some of the screws in this 10-foot 2x4, and then put the screws in there so it makes it a little easier that I'm not holding on to a bunch of screws, that I don't drop any, they're just there ready to go. Then I just have to measure up 1/2 inch onto where the current drywall is, screw it in there, and work the whole way down to that other end of the garage. Then we can start putting vapor barrier up, staple that all on there, get this knocked out real quick. Yes, there's still work being done on the house next door. They're working on putting the OSB up on the roof so that they can get shingle on, I'm guessing. They gotta work just like I am. Now this other end down here, I can run it right up against the wall over there, I believe, and then just set it right up on top of this. Now I'm on the wrong side of the ladder to be able to get that screwed in. Or maybe I'll start on that end, measure the 1/2 inch, because this end can sit there on that top of the studs there. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna start over there. That's actually accurate. 1/2 inch. Set that right there. Moved. Dang it. there's no way to clamp this on either. My fingers is cold. Well, there we go. We got that 2x4 all the way across up in the rafters there. So it's basically like an additional rafter, but not actually all the way up, to secure drywall up to where it comes out over there. Now what I'm kind of thinking for the vapor barrier on here, because I need to unbolt the garage like runners up there and the garage opener to be able to kind of like let that sag or droop down. I'm only going to do one at a time so that it's not the whole thing is hanging there. We don't want to do that. We don't want to damage the garage opener or the garage like trench deal where the wheels go up. We want to make sure that is staying in nice condition. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do to kind of like maybe speed this up a little bit is basically cut and tack all the way across this first stud. So it's basically like a big curtain separating the front half and the back half of the garage. And then I can go across and undo the bolts right there, drop it down, because it's like a 10-foot section up to here. Like maybe right to the edge of that, we'll see. And then I can tack that whole section, just like flip it up and tack it in, rebolt that in, come over here to the next section, basically from the opener to the edge of where the bracket on that is, flip it up into position, tack it all the way across, rebolt that in, unbolt the middle, get as much of that as I can over here, and so on down the rest of the way. Now I think that should work pretty good. It should be pretty efficient if I can just run it all the way down the whole length of that, or at least the full sections, and get as much of it set up, because it's 12 foot from the drywall to the front of the garage. So just take that, roll it out. They're 10 foot by 12 foot at that point for a rectangle. And then, yeah, staple it down, have it ready, and I can just kick it up to the front of the garage. Should be able to knock this out pretty quick. The 2x4 section took a little bit, just getting everything set up and then cutting up that drywall piece up there. Partway through that first stud, I realized I did not have long enough screws and I had to run to the hardware store. So this has taken me a little bit longer than expected, but you know, if you get the wrong screws, it sets you back a little bit. Now we're gonna get the vapor barrier prepped. We're basically just gonna measure out the 12-foot sections and then start tacking them up to the 2x4 that we just put up there. Should be pretty easy. Just lay the tape out, stretch the material nice, and make a few cuts we need. Measure out 12 feet. It doesn't have to be perfect either, because there's quite a decent chunk sticking out over there. So it's just a little bit short, that should be okay. I don't don't know if there's going to be a 12-foot section in this next piece. Might have to do something a little different. We'll see. There's one. We'll start with these first 3 sections and figure that out down there in a little bit. Well, we'll get this opened up. Start hanging it up on that first set of 2x4s. I had to take my hanging light down to be able to do this portion. I didn't record it, but I just focused on doing this portion. I had to unbolt the motor from the rafter and then slip the vapor barrier underneath that and then rebolt it through. I will have to cut around where the outlet is for the actual plug-in for the motor, but that's okay. We'll do that in a minute. And then now I'm just going to kind of work this way. I will have to go back over to that side and drop down the channel for the garage door on the other side, because that's one farther, or like one rafter farther forward. So I'm just doing one rafter at a time, little baby steps to make sure it's kind of tight and pulled snug. And then, yeah, we'll get this knocked out pretty quick here. Sturdy this really is. I mean, it's got a chunk of angle iron going to the wall, so maybe I don't have to support it. The other one I had to support it with my shoulder. Set this there. I'll need that in a minute. Yeah. Maybe you basically like sit up here to do this part. Maybe. We'll see how much it sags when I take this down. Yeah, that's pretty floppy. Okay, yeah, it supports itself. Good. It'll make it a little bit easier. Slip this right inside. Staple this down in here. Tricky though, so I gotta pull it tight and hold the stapler and then hit it. Perfect, but we'll have to do. Basically just there to help hold the insulation in place. So it is a few days later. I ran out of staples, so I needed to run into town and grab more staples. I also did not have enough vapor barrier to finish off that last section down towards the very end. Went and grabbed that stuff, came back and just kind of finished it out. Rather than time-lapse a bunch of me stapling the plastic on the ceiling, just got it done. So what we're looking at here, vapor barriered all the way down the whole garage on the ceiling. That chunk is out from inside there. So we're all ready and prepped for drywall up on the ceiling. That being said, we're actually going to put a brief pause on the garage build project. I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. The first part was just doing the vapor barrier and basically getting it prepped for drywall. We will come back in a couple of weeks when it's a little bit warmer. There's gonna be quite a cold spell. It's basically a blizzard out right now. So we're gonna come back, finish up working on the drywall. I'm gonna make sure I can get a sheetrock hoist rented for basically an entire weekend. It's gonna take a little bit of patience and finesse getting those pieces hung up around where the garage door pieces are. I don't wanna rush that. I don't wanna mess up the drywall. So I'm talking about dropping those down to be able to slide a sheet in, and then dropping the opener down, getting a sheet in, and so on with the other couple pieces of the garage system. That being said, we're gonna end out today's video with that. I hope you guys like this kind of content. It's a little bit different than the normal Miata content. We do have some parts that have shown up to be able to upgrade and update some of the stuff that has not been done on the car yet, and some improvements for the 2025 season. So yeah, we're gonna end it out there. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.